Now we're live. And then we're going to go live on our Facebook page as well. 3, 2, 1. Now we're live. So if you're watching the video edition of the Special Chronicles show, you can download the audio podcast on specialchronicles.com for episode 269. And this is our third and final part of our Unified Schools podcast series with Special Olympics. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to keep an eye on the comments, if there are any comments that pop up during the show. So go ahead and press record on the audio, and then I'll point to you, Brian, and let's get the show kicked off.
Perfect. Hey everyone, my name is Brian Quinn.
My name's Sarah Prescott.
And I'm Leigha Bannon.
And we're from the Special Olympics North America Unified Champion Schools team. And you're listening to the Special Chronicles Show podcast, giving respect and voice to people with special needs.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
This episode 269 is brought to you by listeners like you. Please help support us at Special Chronicles with your tax-deductible donation today to help us continue our mission of giving respect and voice to people with special needs. Please go to specialchronicles.com/given. That's specialchronicles.com/given. We thank you for your generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. This week on Special Chronicles, we are joined by Leigha, Brian, and Sarah for the third and final part of our Unified Schools podcast series, talking about youth and schools in the U.S. coming up right now on SpecialChronicles.com.
I started thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try. It's time we care. It's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
You're listening to the Special Chronicles show. This is the show where we're podcasting disability stories from an insider's perspective, and we are giving a voice to people with special needs. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome back to the Special Chronicles show. My name is Daniel, your host and founder of Special Chronicles. So good to be back behind the mic. And today, this episode 269, we will be bringing to you our third and final part of our Unified Schools podcast series, talking about the Unified Champion Schools and the work that Special Olympics is doing in the U.S. Welcome. Our guests today are Brian and Leigha and Sarah from the Unified Schools North America at Special Olympics. Welcome to Special Chronicles.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
So let's begin with having you guys introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell us what you guys do on the Unified Schools team.
Perfect. So this is Brian, and I'm the senior manager of Unified Champion Schools with Special Olympics North America, and I've been involved for about 11 years, previously with Special Olympics in Arizona, as well as a unified sports partner. And currently, I have the privilege of supporting each of our Special Olympics state programs in implementing Unified Champion Schools across the state. So if you're not familiar, every single state in the U.S. has a Special Olympics state program office with staff, and they're there to support the schools and local programs and communities implementing Special Olympics and Unified Champion Schools, unified sports year round. And so we have the opportunity to support them in implementing that, as well as creating national partnerships to support the work.
Awesome.
Great. My name is Sarah Prescott, and I am a manager of Unified Champion Schools. Very similar to Brian, I provide field services and technical assistance for our state programs that are implementing the school programming. I have been involved in so many capacities, really similar to Brian. I've been a volunteer, a Unified Sports partner, fan in the stand, and then I officially started working for Special Olympics International 5 years ago and switched to the schools team about 1.5 years ago.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure why my face isn't showing up, but my name is Leigha Bannon, and I am the Resources and Communications Manager for Unified Champion Schools. I've been here since March of this year, so a lot shorter, but I've been involved in the Special Olympics movement since I was 10 years old. I have family who work for Special Olympics, so I was also a volunteer, a Unified partner. I helped start a college club in New Jersey for Special Olympics, and I've just been a part of it my whole life. So thanks, Daniel, for having all of us.
Awesome. Awesome.
I can see you, Leah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can?
Yeah.
Okay, I made that up then. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I'm new.
Okay, so before we get started talking about the Unified Champion Schools, there's a video that you guys have on the Special Olympics YouTube channel, and I'm going to show it on the screen for any of you who are watching the video edition. But for the audio, and I'll try to include a link to this video on specialchronicles.com for this episode. But I thought it would be a good introduction before we talk to you guys about the Unified Champion Schools. Play.
Disability. It's about all kinds of moments when you can choose to include on the bus, in the cab, in the hall, in classrooms. There will be moments when you look across the room and you'll see someone isolated, someone left out, someone lonely, someone challenged, someone made fun of, someone humiliated, someone not included. And the question you will face is, will you choose to include that person, or will you move on?
Hello, my name's Tim Shriver, and I'm the chairman of the Special Olympics movement. And I'm coming to you today with a request. Join the Special Olympics athletes, families, coaches, and friends all over the United States in helping to make your school an inclusive school, in helping to make your school meet the new standards designated by Special Olympics, the highest standards ever identified for a unified champion school. 10 standards that define the future of what it means to make our country, our communities, our families, all of our institutions, but most importantly, our schools, into places where inclusion is the standard we all expect of one another. People with intellectual challenges, as well as their non-disabled peers, this is your time. This is your generation. The country is hungry for your example, looking to you to help us overcome the fear of difference and replace it with the joy of inclusion. Contact your local Special Olympics program to learn more about what it takes to become a unified champion school. Imagine this banner hanging in your school as a banner of distinction of the highest degree. Test scores matter, college placement matters, academic achievement matters. But when we think of our future, perhaps the thing that matters most is whether or not we will defeat fear and replace it with joy and justice for all. Help us build a United States where every school is a unified champion school. Begin by making that your school first. Good luck, thank you. And in a word or two, remember, I choose to include.
So that video, I think on the end, it says specialolympics.org/UCS. So hold on to that. So that was an introduction for your team, and if I listen to our previous episodes for this series, you know that we discussed the unified schools in a global sense with Megan, and then the first pout, Soren, Haley, and Megan talked about the overall goals that the unified schools has. But let's begin by having you guys talk about a little bit more about what the Unified Champion Schools is doing in the U.S. and maybe spinning off of that video of what Tim was talking about.
Sure. And yeah, Daniel, thanks again for having us here. And as Tim talked about, it's really about inclusion these days. And I think Unified Champion Schools and Unified Sports is really the new Special Olympics. If you haven't been around Special Olympics in a while, or you're just kind of familiar with the term from the outside, you might not know that we're so much in that inclusion space. But it is somewhat new to us as well. I think the first 40 or 50 years of Special Olympics it was about just kind of access, fighting for people with disabilities to just have a place on a playing field, access to having someone that would coach them to a competition. So I think we've reached that, we've exceeded that, and now it's really all about inclusion and genuine inclusion. And so over the last 10 years in the US, we've been implementing Unified Champion Schools. Before that, yeah, it was a lot of times schools might have a traditional Special Olympics team. So that would be just students with disabilities that might train during the school day or during adapted PE. But then they would usually go off to a competition that was run by Special Olympics in the community. And a lot of times the school wouldn't recognize it. It might not even know that it was happening. And a lot of times it wasn't really an inclusive program. And we know that families want inclusion. We know that it's good for students. It's good for whole school environments. And so that's really the direction that we're headed. And I know we're going to get into more of the specifics of like some of the programming of what Unified Champion Schools looks like. But overall, just it's kind of a shift in how we're working with schools. We want to provide more flexible options. And we do have a lot of different options for schools to engage with Special Olympics right there at their school building and recognize students from special education who are doing great things. Just a couple quick examples how things have changed. So with Unified Sports, it's students with and without disabilities training and practicing together. It's now recognized by the school in a lot of places. They're treated just like any other sports team. So like an interscholastic extracurricular team that's recognized, that has leagues to play against other teams. Participants are recognized through lettering programs. They're included in student banquets. Student clubs, it's students with and without disabilities working together. And one key thing that we try to influence is like the concept of with, not for. So students doing with each other, students doing things with students with disabilities, not for them, not that sort of service mentality, but really that genuine inclusion and bringing that philosophy kind of to the whole school. So that's just kind of, I think in a nutshell, where we are in the big picture, where we want to be. We've made some good progress over the last 10 years, but a lot of work to do, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. And Leigha, Sarah, do you want to add anything?
I think since you have had 2 previous episodes with the global team, it's also important to note that we work with the Office of Special Education Programs under the Department of Education. So we are supported through that funding to make this programming possible. So we are able to administer this to our state programs so that we're able to work with folks on the ground and they're able to work with school liaisons to implement this. So I think, Brian really hit the nail on the head, but I'd also like to recognize that we do work with Office of Special Education Programs, and that's sort of what where the separation between the global team is and our team.
Good. And Leigha, did you want to add anything as well?
No, I think that they explained our program pretty well. But I'd be happy to tell you, where we've been and where we're going. So,
yeah. Let's talk now a little bit about how the Unified Schools has grown over the last 10 years. And,
yeah, of course.
Remind all our listeners and viewers that our guests today are Brian, Leigha, and Sarah from the Unified Champion Schools team at the Special Olympics. So how has the Unified Champion Schools grown over the last 10 years? And is that related with, did it used to be called Project Unify, or kind of how does that fit in with how the Unified Champion Schools has grown in the last 10 years?
Yes. So as Brian mentioned, we are going into our year 10, which is right now, 2017-2018 school year. And we started 10 years ago as Project Unify. And as projects do, they evolve and they become more permanent. And that's why we transitioned into the name Unified Champion Schools. So we did rebrand in that way a couple of years ago. And the idea behind the program, the way that we're moving, is really based a lot on our data that we have. So we work very closely with the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and in collecting data from our schools, teachers, students, administrators on how the program is going and the senses that they're getting of how the school climate is actually changing. So it's important for us to be sensitive to our data and to really let the data kind of guide where we're going. And we've gotten great statistics and feedback back from our over 5,000 schools across the U.S. So the preliminary data that we have suggests that Unified Champion Schools perform better than other schools on most climate dimensions, which include diversity, social and civic learning, and school connectedness and engagement. So we know that what we're doing is working, and we're learning different ways to tweak that and change it as the 10 years progress to the next 20 years.
Awesome. So let's move on and talk a little bit about what it means to be a Unified Champion School.
Great. So our definition, a Unified Champion School promotes three main components: unified sports, inclusive youth leadership, and whole school engagement. So these are promoted on campus to create the biggest system-wide impact on inclusion and school climate, as to what Leigha was saying. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but unified sports is a massive part of our programming, and we also are heavily involved in promoting inclusive youth leadership programming, which includes unified clubs, collaborating with student councils, and just making a student council more inclusive. And then when we use the word whole school engagement, it's just making sure that the whole community on campus understands that what inclusion is and its importance. So we count all of our schools to be Unified Champion Schools and to really aim to promote those three components.
And Brian or Leigha, do you want to add anything to what it means to be a Unified Champion School?
Daniel, it's sometimes tough to describe because there's so many intangibles that come from a Unified Champion School. We have these three components that we know work, that we know are tried and true things that create inclusion, but there's so many things that are stemming from those. It's just incredible to see it. So schools that are seeing success with unified sports and inclusive clubs, they're now doing unified theater or inclusive robotics programs, or the list goes on. And so I think that those are some of the things that we don't always see as much, but unified sports and activities and these types of programs are a starting point for a school. Once they get a sense for it, what it's like, they just run with it, and they get so creative with the students, run with things, and educators get passionate about it, and it just becomes a whole school-wide phenomenon. So I think that that's like really what we're seeing as the unique part of schools becoming really unified.
So it starts with the unified sports, and then it extends out to other activities.
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, a school can start with anything. They may already have a unified club or a best buddies program going on, but then they say, "Oh, we can do unified sports, or we can do all these other types of things." Stems from there.
The other one in the corner?
Are you at a party?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm at a party. Is it really loud? I'm gonna mute myself.
So, I'm guest today on this such Chronicles show. Brian, Leigha, and Sarah from the Unified Champion Schools team at Special Olympics. We want to talk a little bit about how is the whole school involved, and do the schools incorporate the Our World campaign into their programming?
Yes, so we do try and get the whole school involved, as both Brian and Sarah did mention, as part of one of the pillars that we have. And the idea is to create that organic transition from just having these unified sports clubs and unified leadership clubs into having more inclusion throughout the entire school. So activities like the R Word campaign are highly used within schools, and always back to our data. So 86% of schools that participated in Unified Champion Schools say that it's reducing bullying and teasing throughout their school. So we accredit a lot of this with the R Word campaign specifically, and Respect Weeks and things of that nature, where everyone in the school is involved, not just your athletes and not just your student leaders, but everyone in the school has the chance to participate and really get a feel for what inclusion is, and just having that time to be able to really understand disabilities, because a lot of students really might not be that familiar with all of the spectrum of disabilities that there are. And this is a great opportunity for them to learn and to really understand what's going on, and just having that ability to make such an impact. So the percentage of students that said they heard the R word being used was 83%. And then that dropped to 54% in schools that were implementing the R Word campaign. So we are seeing the real impact of doing these whole school activities together.
Awesome. So how many schools are involved as a Unified Champion school? Is there a lot across the country? Or?
Yes, there's over 5,000 schools across the country in 46 states and Washington, D.C.
And how do you guys look to get more schools involved as a Unified Champion school who may not be involved?
Yeah, so our state programs, as Brian mentioned, our Special Olympics state programs are the ones in the field really working with the individual schools, going by school district or specifically to one school at a time. But they're the ones really out there getting the schools, and we are here to support them in any way possible and help them with resources, with communication, with technical assistance, and all those different facets to make sure that we're giving them the tools that they need to be able to reach these schools and show the impact that we can make to get them on board, and make sure that we're talking to them about what's important to them. So as an educator, there's a lot of things on your mind in terms of time and staffing and money and budget. So we have the ability to have our Special Olympics state staff members go out there and really try and show how all of those things can be hit on through the Unified Champion Schools programming.
Awesome. Our guests today on the Special Chronicles show are Brian, Leigha, and Sarah from the Unified Champion Schools team at Special Olympics International. So let's talk a little bit now about some of the cool work that the youth leaders are doing around the country. What are some of those?
Yeah, I think Special Olympics as a whole is really, we have such a great network of volunteers and people dedicated to the movement, but our youth leaders are some of the most passionate and engaged participants, and especially when they involve themselves around Unified Champion Schools activities. We have youth leaders in many different programs fundraise through Cool School Plunges. So they create teams, the whole school gets into it, they do challenges, they do costume contests, they try to dunk their principals and administrators. There's a lot that goes into fundraising. Some of our youth leaders do dance marathons. So I know that a program in Minnesota does a dance marathon in the Mall of America, which is, who wouldn't want to dance in the Mall of America? So they are huge contributors to the fundraising portion of Unified Champion Schools. They also participate as athletes in unified sports, or that they support their peers as fans in the stands, and then they do pep rallies. The number of unified sports across Unified Champion Schools, there's a lot of them, but unified bocce, bowling, basketball, soccer, they're getting involved and they're supporting their teams just like any other team on campus. And then when we get to that inclusive youth leadership component that I talked about a little bit earlier, these youth leaders are contributing to the planning and organization of summits so that they can empower their youth leaders and other peers on campus to do the Choose to Include, like Tim was talking about in his video. They're training one another, they're providing experiences so that they can become those future leaders that we want to have still involved in our movement. So, I think we've all kind of said how varying our programming is. So those are just a few examples. I don't think that we have enough time to go into all of the awesome things they do, but those are just a few examples.
Neat. And Leigha or Brian, did you want to add anything else about some of the cool programs that?
Sure. Yeah, I think one just unique thing that maybe differentiates this from maybe, just differentiates us in a ways that that this is happening in an inclusive manner. So it's not the students without disabilities going to raise money or to volunteer to help other students in their school. It's students with and without disabilities planning things together, advocating together, fundraising together, and serving their communities together. And it's a unified approach to leadership on and off the field. So that's what we think, that's what we've seen the success at. That's where we've seen the most impact in empowering all students to have a voice and to have an opportunity to lead and be seen as leaders within their schools.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Have you guys heard from any of the youth leaders about some of these projects that they're doing as a part of their Unified Champion School? Have you guys heard any response from any of the students or the youth leaders?
Yeah, I think we do have the state program as our storytellers. So we do hear a lot of what's happening on the ground in their schools, and that's how I have those examples. Yeah. But a really nice tangible example is there was a youth summit in Portland, Oregon, and they were able to talk about a project of making inclusive sports gear so that it accommodates any athlete or partner with any sort of ability level. So that's a project that they're collaborating with the Pacific Western College. But those are really awesome projects that they get to contribute to, provide feedback, become voices that are heard in the development of those sort of things. So we hear a ton of stories, and I think we have examples of youth leaders that went through Unified Champion Schools and have come out on the other side as young professionals. So we have a lot of great examples of those throughout our 10 years.
And are these Unified Champion Schools just high schools, or are they also middle schools or elementary schools or colleges and universities, or how?
We work K through 12, so all grade levels. And then also I think you mentioned, you talked with Haley before, we also have a lot of college clubs. So college clubs will work and have intramural leagues on campus They'll have curriculums and courses based around working with Special Olympics or fitness clubs. And they also are very heavily involved in their community Special Olympics programs. So we go K through 12 and beyond.
All right. So for the Unified Champion schools that you guys work with, it's just K through 12, and then the colleges and universities are also tied in with the Unified Champion schools?
I would say they're connected. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Oh, I guess today on the Special Chronicles show, Leigha, Brian, and Sarah from the Unified Champion schools in North America at Special Olympics International. Let's move on and talk a little bit about what types of national partnerships that the Unified Champion schools has.
Yeah, so Sarah mentioned the U.S. Department of Education earlier, and we can't reiterate enough how big of a partner that is for us. It gives us a lot of, I guess, credibility in the education space. Some solid guidance is, of course, the resources that they provide. But we wouldn't be able to get there if it weren't for the impact data that we have. So we work with some higher education folks and school climate folks to get that information and do those research evaluations on the schools and the impact that the work is having. So that's kind of from more of the academic side, but more from the programming side. One of our main partners is the National Federation of State High School Associations, so the NFHS, and they're a lot of people know them as the group that does rules and oversight of high school activities, but they're a membership organization made up of all the different state athletic associations. And we would not be nearly to where we are at today in terms of support from high schools and involvement if it wasn't for the NFHS. So we started working with them a number of years ago. First project was creating an online coaches training for unified sports. And so that's available on the NFHS learning platform. They have an incredible variety of courses that they offer. This one happens to be offered at no cost, and it's just being updated right now, actually. So it's about a 1-hour training for coaches or anyone interested in learning more about unified sports on their website. That's kind of where the relationship started, but they also have provided opportunities for us to just share the message of inclusion and unified champion schools with their member state associations and provide us opportunities for education amongst leaders within high school athletics. So right now we have about 30 state athletic associations, like the high school association in each state that sanction or endorse unified sports as an official high school activity. And so hopefully at some point in the near future we'll reach all states, but that's where we're at this point. Seen a ton of growth there the last few years, and big thanks to the NFHS for that. And I know Sarah works with another key organization that I think she wants to probably mention too.
Oh, yes. We also collaborate with the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and primarily with their student leadership programs. So under this realm, recognizable leadership programs are Student Council, Honor Society, Junior Honor Society. And when we are able to collaborate and work within these programs, we can strengthen our work on providing high quality leadership development. We've been able to tap into their national conference for student councils. We're really looking towards continuing working with them on professional development for our leaders with and without intellectual disabilities, and also provide a connection so that they're able to say and connect with other student leaders across the country that are involved in these programs. They are right now in the middle of a night initiative called the Global Citizenship Initiative. And it aligns so well with our goals in working with schools. So we've really found a really organic connection to our student leadership programs through our connection with NASSP.
Awesome. Awesome. And are there any other national partnerships that you guys are trying to work with in the future to help the various Unified Champion schools? Like, are there any other ones that you guys hope to connect with?
Yeah, there are some additional ones nationally as well as at the state level that we do work with as well. So that definitely wasn't a comprehensive list of all the groups we work with. I mean, a couple of our priority growth areas going forward, Daniel, are middle schools as well as urban and inner city programs. And so we're looking to work with organizations that are already in that space. So we have worked with the Association of Middle Level Education for quite a number of years. They've been a supporter of ours, and we've been a supporter of them as well. And we know there's several groups that work in the urban space. A lot of our states work with professional sports teams. A lot of our states work with Society of Health Educators and Physical Educators. So the SHAPE associations in each state as well, which is more health and PE. But yeah, and also, I mean, early education too. Head Start is an organization that we've more so recently started working with nationally that does work with early education and things like that.
Awesome. Awesome.
And I think to add to that, Brian, I think we'd also like to continue pursuing or supporting our programs that are pursuing their state level education partnerships, because we have a great partnership with Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs, but we also want to have that translate to relationships for our states to work with their state departments of education.
Yes, good call.
So are you guys still working with helping each of the states to work with their Department of Education, or is that still a process that you guys are working through?
Yeah, I think that a good amount of our state programs work with or receive support from their state departments of education, but there are also others that would like to either improve upon or just establish a stronger connection. So I know that part of when we use our technical assistance, just supporting our programs by providing resources, data, research support. I think that's how we continuously try to support them in pursuing those relationships.
Awesome. So our guests today on the Special Chronicles show are Leigha, Brian, and Sarah from the Unified Champion Schools in North America at Special Olympics International. And how do we recognize the hard work that the Unified Champion Schools are doing?
I'm glad you asked that one, because we have a new program, and Leigha and I have both been heavily involved with this. But you saw it in the opening video that you played, Daniel, that Tim is promoting our national school recognition program that we really just launched this year. And your listeners have probably heard of the U.S. Department of Education's Blue Ribbon School program, or you've seen a Blue Ribbon School or some point along the way. That's been out there for quite a long time, and it's something that's given to higher achieving schools that meet certain standards. So this is sort of our version of that. So schools that have met a certain standard of programming are eligible to apply and receive the national school recognition from Special Olympics. And if you look in the background of Leigha, you'll see a mini banner of what that looks like. But really, it's the gold standard of inclusion from our perspective. And it's really based around the three components that Sarah talked about earlier. So if a school goes above and beyond in unified sports, inclusive leadership, and whole school awareness, as well as being a sustainable program, then they're eligible to receive that recognition. And in the first year, we had about 40 schools that applied and received that. And we're now just kind of doing some more higher profile presentations. You saw the video, Tim has done a couple of those presentations. And then also just yesterday, Kevin Nagandi from ESPN presented one at a school in Connecticut, which is really, really cool. And that's kind of part of our our global partnership with ESPN. They're our global presenting sponsor of Unified Sports. And yeah, I'd love to turn it over to Leigha too to share additional thoughts on anything regarding that recognition program, especially the presentations.
Sure. So what Brian was saying earlier about having the unified name go further from sports and clubs into theater and arts and all these different facets, that's really what a nationally recognized banner school is. It's taking the initiatives that are given to them and just spreading it all throughout the school seamlessly. So at the presentation in Connecticut that Brian mentioned, there's a choir and their chorus was unified, and everything about the presentation was unified. So every piece was just unified without them even almost realizing that everything was. It was just, oh, our choir was already like that. Now we're just calling it unified choir. So it's just putting a name on something that they were already doing, and we want to recognize them for that effort and for realizing that they are making a difference. And we want to have those schools used as a model for other schools and moving forward of how you go about transitioning your school and changing your school climate into something that is really inclusive and highlights both general and special education students. So this program is definitely making an impact, and it's giving the students something to reach for, an accomplishment, something exciting that they can be a part of. And I just think the program is really taking off well, and we're getting a ton of great feedback. Especially from the states that get to have special guests such as ESPN come. So that's always fun for your students to see. So I think the recognition piece is truly important, especially as we go into year 10 and moving forward.
So do you guys do the various schools in the various state programs, do they apply for this recognition, or how does that work?
Yeah, they do. We have a standard national application. So if a school is interested in applying, they should contact their state Special Olympics program. However, it is a national standard application that is reviewed, and it's validated for them meeting those standards.
Okay, awesome. So as we know, the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics is happening next year. And youth are one of the leading demographic that will be geared for raising awareness. Is the Unified Champion Schools doing anything to in celebrating the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics?
Yes, we wouldn't let it get past us. We want to celebrate, even though even though Unified Champion Schools is in year 10. We're proud to be part of Special Olympics, which is going into its 50th year, and we want to really highlight how change has Special Olympics has impacted change in education, not just through Project Unify and Unified Champion Schools, but over the last 50 years, and really bringing to light our population. So we definitely have something in the works. It's going to be aligned with a bigger campaign that is going on. So I'll leave you guys on the edge of your seats as to what it will look like. But it will definitely be really interesting and to point out how Special Olympics has made such an impact on education, especially in the United States over the last 50 years. So the imagery wise, just if you imagine what your homecoming court looked like in, say, 1968 compared to what they look like now at Unified Champion Schools in 2017, and just having the jock football player versus now the unified sports athlete, and just having that juxtaposition of these two individuals and really just showing through imagery what the change has been. So that was definitely what we were looking at when we were starting to think about what we're going to do for the 50th. So
awesome. We
will keep you posted on what we do.
Okay, awesome. So are there any resources or links if any schools or any listeners want to find out more about the Unified Champion Schools? I think, Brian, you had mentioned a few of the national partnership links earlier in the program, but any and I think that there was one link at the end of that at the end of that video that we saw at the beginning of the program today. But any links and resources to find out more information?
Of course. So we push our content through Special Olympics International and Special Olympics North America's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube channel, Medium blog. So all of those social platforms, if you follow Special Olympics International or Special Olympics North America, you will find Unified Champion Schools content. But as far as going directly to our page, it's specialolympics.org/unified-champion-schools. So, and right from there, you can get a link to our National School Recognition Program, as well as a list of all of our resources, which I definitely recommend you guys go and check out, because we do have a ton for students, educators, our state programs. So there really is a lot of information on there. And our Youth in Schools resources page includes Unified Schools Global, which you obviously have talked about the last two of your series, and it includes college clubs, Special Olympics college clubs.
Okay, awesome. So I'll include those links on specialchronicles.com if anyone wants to find out more information. And if any listeners have a school in their area who is not yet involved with Special Olympics or as a Unified Champion School, how can they get involved?
Yes. So if you go to those links, there is a contact email that you can send to, and we will be happy to direct you to your state Special Olympics program. And if you are a listener, then you maybe already have some sort of connection to your state Special Olympics program. I definitely encourage to reach out directly to them as well.
Awesome. Any final thoughts on your overall time here today on Special Chronicles that you want to share with our listeners and our viewers?
No, I had fun. I want to thank you for having us. This was awesome.
Thank you, Daniel.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks to the listeners for tuning in. Great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guests today on the Special Chronicles show has been Leigha, the Resources and Communications Manager for the Unified Champion Schools at Special Olympics International, and Brian, the Senior Manager, and Sarah, the Manager for the Unified Champion Schools at Special Olympics North America. Thank you again and for coming on to Chronicles. And if our listeners want to share their feedback, I'm looking through. There's so many notes here. Looking through. Oh, there we go. Can't keep all the notes straight. If you want to email us, you can email us feedback@specialchronicles.com, or on social media at Special Chronicles on Facebook and Instagram, and at Special C Podcast on Twitter. And you can leave us your reviews on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Just do a search for Special Chronicles, and you'll find us. Thank you again. I'm Leigha. I'm Brian and Sarah for coming on Special Chronicles.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And until next time, God bless.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
So stop that, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the live video as well. And that is, I'll go back to the other.